Hi guys. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about something called fat overshooting. So if you've ever been on a diet, or if you know anyone that's ever done a diet, this is probably something you've heard people commonly talk about. So this is basically what happens, or the reason why, when someone goes on a diet and they lose weight, and then over time they end up gaining back the weight they lost plus some. So this is basically the body working to, actually, before I get there, I'm sure that there are people that you know, or maybe even yourself, that has dealt with something similar to this. So, you work really hard, generally, I would say a lot of these things occur when someone creates a pretty significant caloric deficit, like someone that, lost a bunch of weight because they, consumed like 1,200 calories. And, then they felt like maybe they did something wrong when they couldn't sustain it long term, because let's be honest, like a 1,200 calorie diet is not sustainable long term. So, like, for anyone that has ever done that, like, don't feel bad, like that you are no longer sustaining 1,200 calories, because in all honesty, you shouldn't. Now, what happens, and I will be sharing a picture in a moment, but I want to kind of create an understanding of what happens and what triggers fat overshooting. So when someone goes into a calorie deficit, so the body is adaptive, like the body will protect its survival at all costs. So we see metabolic adaptations occur. So just a little note on metabolic adaptations. So from a hormonal standpoint, basically the body will adapt to ensure survival. That means it will offload or downregulate things that are unnecessary for survival. For survival, it does not care about your aesthetics. It cares about, will it have enough energy, whether it be stored or otherwise, that it will be able to continue to survive long term, given the current environment or circumstance. So, for example, if you're in a caloric deficit for an extended period of time, your body views that as its current environment that it needs to create adaptations for. So if you are in a low calorie diet and lots of cardio, exercise, activity, then your body is going to view that as a chronic or prolonged period of deficit and start to create adaptations to protect survival in the long term. So a way to kind of better understand this is, an example I like to use is your cell phone. So we all have a cell phone. Generally, we're on it throughout the day, like scrolling through apps and all the things. And, at some point during the day, we probably get that warning sign that's like, hey, I'm at 20%. Do you want me to go into power save mode? And you're like, heck yeah, I want you to survive as long as possible because I need all my apps. So your body does something similar. So in the case where, with your cell phone, you go into that power save mode, basically what your cell phone does is it, dims the screen light. It will offload or downregulate apps and their running speed, or how much energy they're taking. And it will only prioritize things that are necessary for survival. Yes, there will be other things, like we can pull up an app, but it takes a lot more energy. It's going to drain, it's going to threaten survival. So basically what your phone does is it is protecting survival because it knows that you want to use it as long as possible. So your body does something very similar. So it will downregulate reproductive hormones, because in an environment where your own survival is being threatened, it is not beneficial to bring another human into the mix. So in that case, basically the body is downregulating hormone function, it's downregulating metabolism, to ensure that survival is maintained as long as possible. At that point, like basically body fat is, so in an instance of low calories for a prolonged period of time, it is more expensive for the body to maintain muscle mass. So when there is not enough food coming in, the body is going to off-regulate or offload or use muscle mass essentially for energy, and it will store body fat because body fat is free. So in that case, like, the body is making adaptations for survival. Now, when it comes to fat overshooting and how this relates, basically when the body is ensuring survival or senses periods of high stress or extreme calorie restriction, it will put in place strategies to ensure survival or future survival. So what that means is that in future diets, the body will remember what you've done in the past. So this is one of the reasons why future diets don't necessarily work the same way as they had in the past. Now, another reason would be, just overall, as far as like fat loss is concerned, if say you lost, well, anytime you lose weight, some of that will go be muscle loss. So you will lose basically metabolic power every time you go into a diet phase. So that's why it's important to go into a strength phase post any diet phase, so that you can reestablish that metabolic fire before you go into your next deficit period. So in cases where, you go into a deficit and you go into this deficit for a long period of time, the body will actually, so I'm going to share a picture here. If I can get this to work. I had some screen share issues the other day. So here is a, oops, I can move that. Here is a picture of essentially what happens when we go into a calorie deficit. So in a calorie deficit, so here we are pre-eating restriction. So the ER is eating restriction. So we have our fat cells and we're pre-eating restriction. So the fat cells are full. So then we go into an eating restriction period. So the fat cells shrink and, we're in that diet phase, like things feel great. We're like, oh, we've lost all this weight. And then if we try and hold on to it for too long, say we're in that deficit for a prolonged period of time, and the body starts to sense that, hey, like this is what we have to prepare for, you'll notice it starts to create additional fat cells. So the cells that we have that are fat cells, we actually get more of them. And then during that regain period, so generally, when someone kind of falls off a diet or they fall off the wagon, normally it's a matter of going back to old eating habits. Like there's not a appropriate exit strategy applied to, exiting a diet. So now these fat cells, with the addition of a couple extra fat cells, are now, oops. So these fat cells, so now we have more fat cells. So in a period of basically like regain or basically eating restriction, like weight gain, basically the body will work to refill the fat cells that were depleted at a faster rate than they were depleted, in addition to those additional fat cells. So now the body basically like refills those fat cells and it has additional fat cells. So now fat lost is now regained plus additional fat. So things you can do to avoid situations like this. Stop screen share. So in situations like this, like basically someone probably didn't follow a good exit strategy protocol. So this is where the importance of a reverse diet comes into place. So a appropriate entry exit strategy would be like, basically we create maintenance. So create stability, high metabolism, appropriate strength, We prioritize a period where we're creating hormonal balance, like metabolic balance and maintenance. And then we go into a diet period where we create a deficit from anywhere from 6 to 16 weeks. And then post deficit, we have an appropriate reverse diet exit strategy where we come back to maintenance essentially and move into likely another strength period where we reestablish any sort of muscle mass that was maybe lost, reestablish metabolic fire and optimum metabolism and hormone balance before going into another diet phase. So each one of these stress phases is followed by an appropriate exit strategy to a recovery phase. And that's how we actually avoid that post diet or eating restriction weight regain. Does anybody have any questions? I'm glad you guys were all able to come. I did record this. So you guys that kind of came in a little bit later can watch the beginning and catch up on anything. But as far as like what you were able to see, do you have any questions on this? I'm going to assume silence is a no. We understood everything 100%.
Makes sense to me, but I feel like we talked about it not too long ago when you switched me. So
yeah. Perfect. Well, good. How's the cat?
she's hungry.
She's like, it's dinner time. Excuse me. What are you doing?
Like, excuse me.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, yeah. I mean, if you guys have any questions after watching it, let me know. Otherwise, I hope it was informative. I hope that was like helpful. Share it with your friends.
Yeah, I'll have to just watch it when you post it.
Yeah.
I was in the meeting like, come on, end.
You're like, I have other things to do. I have more important things to do.
I'm off on Friday. Or wait, it feels like Friday because I'm on vacation tomorrow, but I'm off at 5. But no, I'm not.
Well, yeah, I'll upload it to YouTube and put the link in and you can rewatch it. Cool.
Coolio.
I'm sure I'll have Perfect. I love questions. All right, well, cool. Well, let me know once you guys rewatch it. And if you have any questions, as always, reach out. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Bye.